We're coming on the air tonight with chilling new information about the man who tried to assassinate former President Trump. The FBI just revealing the other possible targets he zeroed in on. Why we may never know why he targeted Donald Trump. Then Nvidia, dubbed the world's greatest stock, posting record quarterly revenue minutes ago. How this tech giant has become a bellwether for investors. Plus, why thousands of flight attendants are gearing up for the first major strike in 2 decades ahead of the busy holiday travel weekend, the latest challenge for an industry facing a lot of chaos. And in tonight's original, we'll take you to New Orleans and inside a jail now trying to fill some of the gaps left by mental health facilities destroyed by Hurricane Katrina 19 years ago. Then, why Hollywood hitmaker Michael Crichton's estate says a new show is an unauthorized reboot of the smash ER. We're digging into the drama of this reboot battle later in the show. Hey, I'm Christine in for Hallie, and tonight we start with the disturbing new details just into us from the FBI on the man behind the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. The gunman apparently searched for information about both the RNC and the DNC, plus information about President Biden, before hyper-focusing then on former President Trump and opening fire at his rally in Pennsylvania. FBI leaders late today telling reporters the 20-year-old shooter saw the rally, in their words, as a target of opportunity. And still no answers on what his ideology or motive might have been. This significant update from the FBI as Donald Trump's team now prepares its defense for the streamlined federal indictment against him for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. It's the first major legal test of the Supreme Court's ruling protecting the acts a president takes while in office. We should note it is unlikely this case will make it to court before Election Day. We've got team coverage. Garrett Haake is standing by with the latest on the indictment. Let's start with Ken Delaney and what we're hearing tonight from the FBI. Ken, a lot of updates here. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, Christine, I think the headline is that while they have established no motive for this shooting by Thomas Crooks, the now deceased shooter, they've figured out a mindset. They said he did a lot of detailed attack planning. And when they say target of opportunity, what they're saying there is that it didn't appear that he was targeting Donald Trump because he was Donald Trump. He was Googling things about Joe Biden, about Donald Trump, about the DNC, about the RNC. What was clear to the FBI is that he wanted to do something big. He wanted to attack a big, prominent target. And that fits the profile of a lot of mass shooters and previous would-be assassins, not somebody necessarily who had an ideological motive, although they're not ruling that out. That's what they're getting based on Google searches and social media. Now, in terms of the social media accounts, what they've said is that he exhibited mixed ideologies. There's some places where he appears to be supporting Democrats, other places where he appears to be supporting far-right memes. They said there was one account that had anti-Semitic comments that they have not specifically attributed to him. Other than that, they're ruling out at this point, they have no real indication that there were any co-conspirators or that he was in any way linked to a foreign entity, because there's been speculation about the Iran plot against Mr. Trump. They're saying that there's no relation there as far as they can tell. And they did say that, remember this shooter was able to fly a drone over the rally site a couple hours before in what appears to be a major security failure. They said today that they believe that he used that opportunity to assess the security posture and that it may have helped him carry out the attack, which is a big revelation in terms of the Secret Service's failure to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, it really is. So many unanswered questions. Presumably, this investigation is still ongoing. But I wonder if we could ever really find out what that shooter's motive was.
Well, it appears that we're not going to find sort of a smoking gun ideological motive here, because the FBI has interviewed hundreds, literally hundreds of associates, friends, neighbors, relatives, fellow students, anybody who's ever touched and been near this shooter, and they just don't have answers in terms of what exactly was driving him to do this. They're piecing together circumstantial evidence, and look, he does fit the profile of a lot of other people who have engaged in mass violence, alienated, bullied, not many friends. But then again, other people have said they didn't peg him as a mass shooter. Sometimes you hear people say, we knew that person was a risk. They're not hearing that, according to my sources in this case. So it remains a bit of a mystery, Christine.
Sure does. Ken Delaney, thanks so much. Let's bring in Garrett Haake for more tonight. Garrett, we know some of Donald Trump's best fundraising days so far have been on the heels of indictments or arraignments against the former president. Is that happening here again?
Indictments or arraignments or convictions, Christine. And no, it doesn't seem to be the case, at least right now. The Trump campaign hasn't been out in their usual way bragging about their online fundraising. And in fact, with the exception of his conviction in New York, we found that the ability to raise big dollars off of these indictments trailed off over time. It's possible we could still see that change, but I think that the energy around the indictments on the political side, at least from the right, has tapered off substantially.
You know, Garrett, at the backdrop of all of this, you've got the Trump team now playing defense today for this incident involving campaign staff and during his trip there just 2 days ago. What more can you tell us?
Now, I've been reporting this out all day, and while there is some reports of an incident, essentially perhaps some shoving or some words exchanged between campaign staff and cemetery staff over photography on site, what's more interesting about this is what they were arguing about, which is Arlington Cemetery's policy that there not be campaign explicitly political content produced or developed or taken on site here. And what you're looking at is a TikTok video released by the Trump campaign yesterday that is exactly that. So we had Trump appearing at the invitation of some of these Gold Star families in Section 60, was invited to lay a wreath, invited to take part in their ceremony, but then essentially capitalizing on that invitation to produce this political content that has a lot of Democrats, some veterans groups, up in arms over the politicization of what is national hallowed ground.
And Garrett, J.D. Vance is taking a really hard line against Harris over the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, that's right. He was asked about this Arlington storyline today and responded like this. I'll explain why it's related.
It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Referring to Donald Trump showing up at Arlington here, you see that anger there from Vance. But what this tells me is that this is meant to be a contrast play here. It's not just that Donald Trump went to Arlington out of the goodness of his heart, the campaign would say, to be with these families. It's that they want to create that contrast with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who did not. And Vance's anger there, performative as it may be, I think makes that point as clearly as anything else, that the Trump campaign sees this as an issue of major vulnerability for Kamala Harris.
All right, a lot of big storylines today involving both candidates, but really the Trump team, and we've got, what, 10 weeks to go? Is that right?
But who's counting?
I'm not counting. Garrett Hake, thanks so much. Nice to see you. And in just the last hour, a temp check on what's been called the world's most important stock, showing a growing demand in the AI boom. We're talking about Nvidia, the chip-making giant. Has been a big influence on this growing AI landscape that we've been hearing and talking so much about. The company out with its latest earnings report tonight, just after the markets closed. Nvidia reporting more than $30 billion in revenue, beating estimates and growing by 122%. Just boffo numbers. The Financial Times today writing Nvidia earnings now rival the U.S. jobs report for impact on markets. That's how big of a deal this company is. And it shows stocks pulling back. They closed down. They read today ahead of that new earnings report. The tech-heavy NASDAQ down about 1%. We're watching it here after hours, too. Investors have been keeping a close eye on Nvidia for some time now. The reason they're looking to this company to gauge just how sustainable the AI trade is. Nvidia has had stellar growth over the past year or so, unlike anything we've seen in a while, maybe in history. The company now worth more than $3 trillion, making it the second biggest publicly traded company in the U.S., right behind Apple. How they got here, tech companies have been spending a ton of money on Nvidia's chips and data centers to train and operate their AI systems. But investors still have questions about the long-term return on investment clients will see from all of this. Investopedia editor-in-chief and my friend Caleb Silver is joining us now to help break it all down. First, your takeaway from the earnings report. It was really, really good. The Wall Street wanted really, really, really gooder.
Yeah, 122% revenue growth year over year, profit of $16.6 billion in just 3 months. Are you not entertained? Because investors were not entertained. They also said demand remains strong going out for the rest of the year. Still, the stock down about 4 or 5% in after hours. But it is the poster child for the AI boom. Goldman Sachs calling it the most important stock in the world. Why? Its biggest customers are the biggest companies in the world. The Apples, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Metas, and all the other companies using AI, but also storage of our data that AI makes chips for in these big data server centers. That is a big demand area for them.
I'm old enough to remember you used to say the saying, as goes GM, so goes the country. Now is it as goes NVIDIA? I mean, you look at the Financial Times headline saying that NVIDIA's report has become as important as the the U.S. jobs report for sort of direction on the economy. Is that overstating it?
I think so, a little bit when you talk about one company, but it is a $3.1 trillion company. And a lot of folks out there may say, I have no exposure. I don't even know anything about this company. Well, you probably use a lot of devices that Nvidia makes chips for. If you're a gamer, right? If you're a crypto miner, if you're storing your data somewhere on some server, yes, you are using their products. And it's also one of the most widely held stocks in all index funds and 401k. So you probably own it and may not know it. So yes, its direction matters to you as an investor.
It's one of those interesting things, too, I think, that Nvidia is just so, it's become this name, but it's more than just the company Nvidia. The chips it's making are going to change other industries, too, like airlines and retailers. At some point, it won't just be AI are these three stocks, but AI will be embedded in everything, I think.
Yeah, and they're making the chips that are used to power things like OpenAI, ChatGPT, to learn language models. And again, the big server farms where we're storing all of this data. So it's not just Nvidia, it's the poster child for this boom in the stock market. We've seen it before. We saw it with Apple years ago. We've seen it with Cisco Systems. You mentioned GM, ExxonMobil. All eras have their main spotlight stock. Nvidia is it, and its CEO, Jensen Huang, is that guy right now.
This is the Nvidia era. But also today, Warren Buffett's mega conglomerate, Berkshire Hathaway, crossed the $1 trillion mark. And let's just think about how, and I mean, he had Apple, he has some tech, but it's so interesting. He buys like, what? Airlines and railroads and
boring companies that generate a lot of cash flow.
Through the loom. Sometimes, you know, sexy and techy isn't always just the only way to get to the top.
Yeah, Warren Buffett loves cash flow, free cash flow. These companies produce a lot of it, and he likes to buy what he knows. But Berkshire Hathaway, the company that he has run for years, he's 96 years young, has been a big investor, one of the biggest investors in Apple, sold half of its stake over the course of this year and has been selling its stake in Bank of America. But big companies get bigger. This company generates a ton of cash, and it has a ton of cash, $277 billion of cash on hand. You know what Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway's problem is? Too much money, no place to spend it. This company is a $1 trillion company. The stock price, $696,000. $505 per share.
Oh, let's get a share right now.
Yeah, we'll split one.
I can't even split one with you. All right, Caleb Silver, so nice to see you. Thank you so much. All right now, the heat is spreading east with more than 50 million people under heat alerts stretching from Missouri to Long Island. Odds are you're feeling it where you are. Chicago hit a daily record of 99 degrees. Indianapolis, 94 yesterday, the hottest day of the year for both those cities. And today's temps are set to lead to record highs for, Washington, D.C., suffering from a heat index possibly over 105. On top of that, there's a code orange air quality alert in the capital. New numbers out today show that there have been 325 heat-related deaths in the U.S. this year. The heat's so bad in the Midwest that it's leading to something called, get this, corn sweat, when the corn plants literally exhale water and make the humidity even worse. It's something that could hurt the year's harvest, too. Ryan Nobles is in D.C. for us now. Ryan, what's been done in this code red heat situation, especially for vulnerable communities like the elderly in D.C.?
Yeah, well, Christine, first, let me tell you, we don't look like we're going to actually break the heat record here in Washington today. We did hit 99 degrees. The temperature now starting to track down. That ties the record. It doesn't break it. But as you rightly point out, it feels like it's over 100 degrees in Washington today with the humidity. That's part of the reason that the city put in a heat emergency today. And that allows them to make sure that the most vulnerable population is taken care of, including the elderly, meaning they can get free transportation to cooling centers if they need to. And one of the things the district recommends is that you check in on those elderly and vulnerable neighbors and friends, because even if you believe that they're in a setting where they've got regular air conditioning, it's still important to check on them because those air conditioning units can conk out. In fact, one air conditioning tech we talked to in Chicago says they get more calls when these heat waves pop up than they do at any other time of the year. Take a listen.
Once those temperatures hit above 80, 85, we start to get a lot of call volume from air conditioners breaking down.
And it's important to check on those you love because within just 10 minutes of being exposed to extreme heat, they can start to display symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat sickness. So it's very, very important to keep track of them. Keep this in mind, Christine. Here in Washington, D.C., the National Weather Service has issued a heat advisory 12 times in the year of 2024. That's the most since 2005.
So when's this going to break, Ryan? I mean, the U.S. Open going on right here in New York, and I know fans are really going through it today.
Yeah, it does seem as though this is a temporary problem right now. In fact, the next 6 to 10 days, at least here in Washington, there's expected to be a much greater cooling stretch coming in. But in the overall aggregate of what the weather's been like this summer, it has been very hot, not just here in Washington, but across the country. In fact, according to studies that have been done, 100% of Americans have been exposed to a situation where they've been dealing with extreme heat. 100%. So basically everyone living in the United States. And this is also a pretty interesting stat that 61% of extreme alerts have been happening since May 1st. And that's a real sign that the climate is changing because they are happening so early and they are extending so far into the year. We're almost to Labor Day, Christine, and we're still dealing with this extreme heat. Here in this area, most kids have already gone back to school.
Yeah.
Not everyone has air conditioning in those schools as the school year begins.
Oh, I feel for those kids. It is so hot inside of a classroom if it's not air conditioned. Ryan Nobles, thanks so much. Nice to see you. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz touching down in Savannah in just the last hour, kicking off a big 2-day bus tour through parts of rural Georgia as her campaign sets its sights on voters outside of the major cities. And remember, President Biden won Georgia by a razor-thin margin in 2020, the first time the southern state went blue since 1992. Harris's campaign hoping to do it again as the latest polls show her gaining an edge there. Mike Memoli is traveling with the Harris campaign in Georgia. Hey, nice to see you there. What more do we know about how Harris's team is trying to appeal to rural voters there in Georgia?
Well, Christine, it really just starts with showing up, right? We haven't seen, this is my favorite stat of the day, any general election presidential campaign events in the Savannah area since the mid-90s. That just tells you how rare it is to see this kind of activity. And that's what the Harris campaign thinks is so important, because traditionally, if you want to win a state like Georgia and you're a Democratic campaign, you really focus on the big cities and the suburbs. That's why we've seen Vice President Harris and before her, President Biden, come to Atlanta so often this year, 7 times for Vice President Harris. But now what they're trying to do is also make inroads into some more rural areas. And that means maybe taking a part of the state that was going to be a 55-60% margin for Donald Trump and shaving a point or two, 3 or 4 off of that. And that adds up to potentially that 12,000 vote margin that we saw here in Georgia in 2020. The other part of this, which is unique to Georgia, is that when we talk about a rural population, a lot of people think we're talking about rural white voters. Well, especially in the southern states, rural voters tend to be heavily African-American voters as well. And so as you look at what is the constituency groups that Democrats need to mobilize for a success here in November, that's part of what they're doing here as well, Christine.
Hey, Mike, we're looking at live pictures right now. You can see them talking to folks there. And it's they're at a high school, I'm told.
That's right.
Excellent. So give us more context. You talked about those 12,000, those famous 12,000, 11,000 and change votes. Georgia was a Republican stronghold for almost 3 decades straight before Biden flipped it, right?
That's right. And it still has Republican office holders at the state level almost across the board. Governor Kemp won an overwhelming re-election victory here 2 years ago. But what we've seen, what put Georgia in play in 2020 was changing demographics, right? You have already one of the highest black populations of the battleground states, and you add to that the suburban vote that had been over the course of the entire nation, but especially here in Georgia, trending toward the Democrats. So you have that demographic trend in Democrats' favor. And then you add to that what Democrats feel so bullish about now is the issue landscape as well. Georgia has one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country now as part of that post-Dobbs landscape. Vice President Harris spent a lot of time leading that portfolio for the Biden administration, talking about reproductive rights. So this is an issue where they really do intend to go on offense as well. So far, what the most recent polling we have here in the state, Donald Trump does have a 4-point edge, but we have seen momentum really shift, at least in the Democrats' view, in their favor. And so as we start to see more polling, maybe a post-convention bounce for the Democratic ticket, this is much more squarely in the battleground column, where previously the Biden team had been narrowing their focus on that defense in the blue wall states. This is an intentional signal on the part of the Harris team coming out of the convention that they're on a more competitive battleground map.
All right, Mike Memoli, nice to see you there in Savannah. Beautiful Savannah, Georgia. Thank you. Tonight, United Airlines flight attendants voting to authorize a strike, the first time something like this has happened in 20 years. Flight attendants protesting today outside of 20 major airports across the country ahead of the busy holiday travel weekend. Now, they can't actually walk off the job for at least 30 days. The union is hoping today's vote will get contract negotiations moving. Tremaine Lee is at LaGuardia Airport for us. And Tremaine, what are flight attendants asking for? And is United indicating they're receptive?
Christine, these flight attendants are asking for, a litany of things, including a double-digit increase in base pay and also pay for time at work on the ground. Flight attendants historically don't get paid until that the airplane door closes. But they're also asking for job security and, retirement benefits. Now, United has said that they're working in good faith. They're hoping to, work on an industry-leading agreement where both sides have been fully engaged. But they also went on to note in this statement earlier, to be clear, this is no work stoppage or labor disruption. Instead, it's off-duty flight attendants exercising their right to conduct and conduct a picket. And so, as this moves on, we've had some folks on the ground. Our affiliate WNBC went out to Newark and also spoke with some folks on the picket line. Check it out.
A lot of folks don't know that flight attendants do not get paid for all the time that they're on duty. They only get paid for the flight time when the door closes.
We don't want to see a strike. We certainly don't want to slow down.
I hope the flight attendants get it. Anytime they can improve their situation, I'm all for it.
Now, Christine, we've seen some action on the picket line so far, making it clear that these flight attendants are they're not off the job. There is no work stoppage, but they're making their voices heard.
And to reemphasize this, the flight attendants, they can't actually walk out for 30 days. But should people be traveling for the holiday expect to see that informational picketing, as they say?
Well, at the very least, more people will see what picketing is happening. The TSA expects a record-breaking weekend with over 17 million travelers. And so as people are moving around, we should expect that there should be some, display of strength, a flexing by these flight attendants, letting folks know that, this whole operation could be shut down if we're off the job.
All right, Tremaine Lee, thanks so much. Nice to see you tonight. Now to Texas, where public safety officials say 3 are dead and 11 others are hurt after a major rollover crash. You can see the scene of the accident here, right on the side of the highway, just outside Dallas. Authorities say a van with more than a dozen people inside lost control and flipped over, throwing several passengers out of it. Only one person was wearing a seatbelt. The driver died, along with 2 others. County health officials say a medical helicopter, as well as multiple ambulances, police cars, and fire trucks responded to this mass casualty event. Investigators are looking into what exactly caused the van to lose control. All right, coming up, back to school means no phones in class for a growing number of students across the country. Are the bans actually helping kids focus? We're live in one district trying it out next. New details on the New Hampshire man in his 40s who died from a rare mosquito-borne virus. What his family is saying about him coming up in the 5 things. But first, when kids go back to school this year, a lot of them won't be using their cell phones in the classroom. That's because a growing number of districts are taking drastic measures to deal with the big distraction they cause. They're banning phones in class. The Washington Post found that out of the nation's 20 largest school districts, at least 7 forbid the use of cell phones during the school day or plan to do so. At least 7 more have imposed serious restrictions. In Massachusetts, more than half of the districts have a total ban. Even more have partial bans. It comes amid rising concerns that cell phones make it harder for kids to focus and really contribute to cyberbullying. Meanwhile, the Surgeon General is warning that phones do not harm kids' mental health, but parents, not only kids' mental health, but parents' mental health, too. NBC's Rahema Ellis joins us now from Brockton, Massachusetts. And you've been speaking with people there in Massachusetts, Rahema. What are they saying about how we got here, and what do they think about the bans?
One teacher said to me recently that cell phones in schools, they compared it to giving kids the keys to the car before teaching them how to drive. And so we've got a lot of things that are unintended consequence with this device. And some of them, you pointed out, it's about mental health. It's about isolation, about kids being right next to each other, but not talking to one another. Instead, they are texting. So there's this struggling with how do they socialize? Because this device, many of them also have what they call FOMO, fear of missing out, of what one person is seeing on a social media chat. So they feel they have to get on and engage in that as well. So It's led to even cyberbullying, as you point out, and it never stops. Even threats about what might happen to a kid after school as they're looking on these devices. So some bans are going into place. We've got some full screens here about what those bans might be in some communities. Some are less restrictive, and they would include using phones during class, but barring using phones in class, I should say, but they are allowed at lunch and between classes. The more restrictive ban, students would hand over their phones completely for the entire school day, and the phones would be stored inside a locking pouch. And they would not get those phones back, Christine, until the end of the day. But in one place we went to in Brockton, Massachusetts, it's a pouch that the kids put the phones into. It locks, and the kids can put the phone right in their backpack or any kind of satchel they might be carrying around. One parent said that she liked this in the event that they had to come and get their to the school to get their child for an emergency, let's say. The kid wouldn't have to go to the office and then find the phone and all the rest of it. They'd have it right in their satchel, and they could move quickly. So, two kinds of restrictions, and some parents think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so interesting. Even in some schools, I know in one of my son's schools, they tested, it's almost like a shoe rack on the side of the door. You come in, you drop your phone in on the way into class, you pick it up on the way out. So you do have access to the phone, but not during class, to prevent that popcorn brain where you're just looking at something real quickly, a new idea all the time, and you can't focus. So how are districts going to know if this is working the way they intend?
You know that old saying, the proof is in the pudding? If they find that kids seem less anxious, if they find that kids are actually paying attention during class, if a teacher calls on a student and instead of that student having to look up from their cell phone, that student is making eye contact with the teacher. If they find that grades are improving, that social behavior is improving, that they have fewer arguments in school, those are going to be telltale signs, teachers tell us, that this is working to the benefit of students rather than to their detriment.
It's
Christine?
certainly really exciting and interesting that so many school districts are trying new things and trying to figure out how to make this work, because it's a new frontier there with this technology for such young kids. Raheem Ellis, thank you so much. All right, when we come back, why a super famous writer's estate is suing over a new medical drama they say looks too much like ER. Plus, a rare lobster rescue where workers spotted this orange crustacean later in the local. U.S. Marshals in Tennessee caught a murder suspect in kind of a weird way. We'll explain later in the local. But first, let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, we're learning more about the New Hampshire man who died from Eastern equine encephalitis. It's the first time someone's gotten EEE there in a decade. The man was just 41 years old, and he was healthy, according to his family. But when he got sick, it progressed really quickly. He went to the hospital with severe central nervous system disease, then died a week later. The CDC says people should wear bug spray or dress in clothing that covers your arms and legs to protect yourself. Number 2, the CDC today saying 5 more people have died in that listeria outbreak tied to Boar's Head deli meats, bringing the total number of deaths now to 8 people. Dozens have become sick. You'll remember we told you about this outbreak. The deli meats you see here were recalled, and officials say do not eat them. Number 3, new data from Fidelity says there is a record number of 401k millionaires, meaning people with balances in their retirement account of at least $1 million. It says almost 500,000 people fall into that category. Fidelity says they started early and contributed regularly over many years. Number 4, Lego is changing up its building blocks, announcing today it'll start using renewable and recycled plastic instead of oil to make Legos. It's more expensive, but it's part of a trend. Other toy companies like Mattel have said they're going to use recycled materials too. All right, number 5, tomato, whatever you call it. This man is swimming in them. How did this happen? It's the traditional Tomatina festival in eastern Spain, where tens of thousands of people fling overripe tomatoes at each other. It all started as a food fight in the 1940s, and now it's a big thing and a big tomatoey mess. All right, we're just learning that the estate of the creator of the medical drama ER is filing a lawsuit against Warner Brothers Television over an upcoming show called The Pit that it claims is basically an unauthorized reboot. You remember ER. It was the top-rated show on American TV in the mid-90s. Millions of people watched. It won a bunch of Emmys. It was created by Michael Crichton, who died in 2008. The lawsuit details a handful of similarities between The Pit and ER. Here's a few. Both star actor Noah Wyle is a doctor. Both are set in the emergency room of a big city, one in Chicago, one Pittsburgh. The episodes start in the morning and end at night. There's a lot of similarities here. Chloe Molas is joining us now. So walk us through the complaint, because it alleges the producers of The Pit actually tried to develop a reboot of ER. What happened here?
And that looks like where it all started, Christine. So in this explosive lawsuit that's filed on behalf of Michael Crichton's estate, specifically his widower, Sherry, she says, it's not like ER. It's not kind of like ER. It's not sort of like ER. It is ER. And like you said, you mapped out some of the similarities, right? They're both in emergency rooms. They both have Noah Wyle in the series. But she says that she was approached, the estate was approached to do a reboot of ER, and that the estate of Michael Crichton said, no, we're not going to do it. We don't want to be part of it. She says this is the ultimate betrayal, that it's really like getting the band back together again. You don't just have Noah Wyle, who's now starring in such a similar show. The lawsuit states that you also have John Wells. Who is John Wells? Well, he was the famous showrunner of ER for all those years. He was an executive producer on some of the episodes of ER. He's now the executive producer of this new show, The Pit. So they're seeking, unspecified damages. But this show, HBO Max, the streaming service, they have ordered 15 episodes, and it's coming out sometime next year.
Wow. What is Warner Brothers saying about this?
So Warner Brothers has issued a statement, and they're saying The Pit is a new and original show, and any suggestion otherwise is false. Now, this is not new news that The Pit is coming out. Wells and others have done interviews. Variety has said that this show is actually going to be pushing the envelope more. They're going to have more explicit themes. It's going to explore hospitals in a post-COVID era, that this is not ER. And if you think about it, though, Christine, there have been a lot of hospital dramas.
True.
And one comes to mind since ER. Grey's Anatomy,
Right.
Dr. McDreamy, right? Like reminiscent of Clooney. And it doesn't look like any other stars besides Noah Wyle from ER are going to be a part of this. I just want to know, what does George Clooney think about all of this? Juliana Margulies. But, you can understand how the estate would feel like, look, you came to us, you asked for permission, and then you went and you did something very similar. But I guess the truth will come out when the show comes out,
Right.
and we'll see if these episodes are reminiscent of ER.
Certainly a drama in of itself.
Yes, it is.
Chloe Molas, my friend, nice to see you.
Nice
Thank
to see you, too.
Some breaking news right now. We're just learning that the CEO of Telegram was charged by French prosecutors after being detained earlier this week. Pavel Durov has been charged with enabling various forms of criminality on the platform. He's been released on a €5 million bail, but he has to stay in France. He's going to report to police twice a week. In a statement Wednesday, the Paris prosecutor's office said that Telegram had almost completely failed to respond to its legal requests for user data in prosecuting cybercrime cases. You remember, Durov was detained Saturday after stepping off a plane in Paris. Telegram didn't immediately respond to NBC's request for comment. Let's bring in Kevin Collier with more on today's developments. Kevin, nice to see you. What more do we know?
We know this is completely unprecedented for the leader of a major tech company to be arrested, charged with a large series of crimes-related criminality on the platform. But also, Telegram is pretty unique. Unlike any other major platform, it simply has a policy of just not responding to government requests for people who are committing fraud, people who are trading sexualized images of child abuse, things like that. So this is uncharted legal territory that we're looking at here.
And even really serious crimes like, human trafficking and trafficking of children in some cases, not only just the images of children. So it's the policy of Telegram not to cooperate with law enforcement when they're trying to investigate these crimes?
On the Telegram website, they say they have shared 0 bytes of data about users with any government in any circumstance, which is completely out of the pale with the way any other, not just American website works, but TikTok, Chinese apps, European apps, they all kind of play ball, at least with severe crimes, when prosecutors get a warrant and say, hey, this is a particular user you at least turn over what you have on this person. And Telegram has not. So this is new territory for him to be arrested, but it's not entirely surprising that Durov would be the one to kind of attract this law enforcement attention.
Yeah, this scrutiny. So where does it go from here?
Well, he's out on bail. He's been offered bail. We think he's out on bail. but he can't leave the country. And we are waiting for the next steps in the court process.
All right, Kevin Collier, thank you so much. I know you'll keep following it for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Overseas, we're learning more tonight about a fallen Israeli soldier rescued in the Gaza Strip after being held hostage. The IDF and Israeli security agencies say the soldier was taken on October 7th, the day Hamas attacked Israel. They say the effort to get him home happened over several months. It comes as Israel is launching one of its largest raids in the occupied West Bank, the largest in at least 2 decades, with airstrikes in 2 cities and a refugee camp. The IDF and other officials saying in a joint statement they, quote, eliminated armed terrorists from the air and ground. Danielle Hamajian has more from Jerusalem.
Well, normally these raids in the occupied West Bank last only a few hours. They normally mostly happen at night, and they don't usually involve so many units within the IDF, but that's not the case here. The IDF calling this a major counter-terrorism operation, and the reason why they've launched this, they say, is in response to an escalating wave of terrorist activities, citing the increase in use of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, under roads and under infrastructure. IDF also saying that they've identified efforts by Iran to smuggle in weapons and explosives into the West Bank. The Israeli foreign minister is saying today that Iran is working to set up a terrorist front against Israel in the West Bank, following the model of Gaza and Lebanon, calling this a full-fledged war. Now, one local source on the ground in one of the camps being surrounded at the moment telling us that the IDF are going home to home, detaining young men and taking them to an interrogation site on the outskirts of the camp. Civilians telling us all day today that they were afraid to come out of their homes, that they could see IDF snipers on top of roofs and buildings, that they were afraid to come out. They were afraid even of looking out the window. But this is still ongoing after nearly 24 hours, and it's unclear how long it's going to go on for.
All right, Danielle, thank you for that. NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Southern Bureau, officials in Tennessee arresting a murder suspect after he came crashing through the ceiling. U.S. Marshals tracked him down to a Memphis home where he tried to hide in the attic. That's when it collapsed. He was taken into custody on multiple charges and was not hurt from the fall. Out of our Northeast Bureau, a super rare orange lobster rescued from a New York grocery store after animal shelter staff spotted her in the seafood section. The 1 in 30 million lobster nicknamed Clementine was then cared for by an animal advocacy group before being released back into the sea. Also from our Northeast Bureau, a Massachusetts community raising $20,000 after the city shut down a boys' ice cream stand. The 12-year-old who started selling homemade ice cream to raise money for his brother's special needs hockey team had to close shop when officials said it violated regulations. That's when that town stepped in, folks, hosting fundraisers, making the boy a local celebrity, and raising enough money to support the team for years to come. It's so great. Coming up, we're going inside one of the most notorious jails in the country, how officials there are turning it into a pilot program for mental health. That's next in tonight's original. All right, some more breaking news now. We're learning from United Airlines in just the last hour that one person was taken to the hospital after a flight was diverted to Memphis this afternoon after encountering some severe turbulence. Paramedics met the plane at the gate, transported the passenger to the hospital. United says we're grateful to our crew for their efforts to ensure the safety of our employees and customers, and we expect the flight to depart for Chicago soon. We'll bring you more as we get more on this. All right, tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been covering. And tonight, it's mental health behind bars. This week marks 19 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, destroying the city's charity mental health ward, and it still hasn't been rebuilt. Now the jail has been forced to fill its void. Here's Antonia Hilton.
Up on the 4th floor of one of the most notorious jails in the nation, about 50 men are living together in an experimental community. They play cards and basketball, share books, and cut each other's hair.
We try to make sure everybody is cool, calm, collective.
NBC News receives special access to the Justice Center in New Orleans. Resident Zachary Terrell took us on a tour of what officials call a model pod for mental health.
I'm gonna tell y'all something funny. This is my partner.
With the stress of being away from his 3 daughters, after pleading not guilty to armed robbery charges. He says he stands here to talk through his pain out loud.
I just talk to him. He don't talk back.
Zachary is among the first to experience New Orleans Sheriff Susan Hutson's reforms, aimed at treating pretrial inmates more like patients, with freedom to set their own schedules, share chores, and bond with each other.
Bring y'all to my humble abode.
Fellow member Leonard Patty has been in pretrial detention for 5 years and pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder.
I probably got the best view in the jail.
He says he's lost countless friends to gun violence, that he didn't realize until joining this pod that it wasn't normal to live every day expecting to die.
Before coming to jail, I was cool with that. Like, if I had ran to the police and they killed me, I would have been happy.
For years, the Orleans Parish Jail has been known for violence and a 10-year federal consent decree monitoring human rights abuses. Experts say it has one other title, the largest mental health care provider for all of New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina flooded the city's charity mental health ward. It never reopened, following a pattern seen across the U.S. Large mental institutions and psychiatric wards shuttered, many for good reason, as asylums became infamous for poor conditions and mistreatment. But our country did little to replace them. And New Orleans isn't alone. The jails in L.A., Chicago, and New York are among the largest mental health providers in America.
I don't want a mental health jail, I want a mental health facility.
Sheriff Hutson ran for office in 2022, promising to hire clinicians and to fight plans for further jail expansion. According to her office, more than half of the 1,400 people in jail here have diagnosed mental disorders, ranging from PTSD to schizophrenia.
Why did mental health matter to you?
My baby brother. He ran away to the Navy when he was a teenager. He came back PTSD, and then one day he just fell down completely and disappeared.
Take your time.
Yeah, some of these things, you just trigger back. You're like, The intervention that we did, I had to call the sheriff's office.
Hutson became the only female sheriff in the state. As she tried to reform, Louisiana Republican lawmakers gained a supermajority.
Our criminal justice system has lost its balance.
Pushing through a slate of crime and punishment laws, including sending 17-year-olds to adult jails like this one. Since the spring, the already crowded New Orleans jail population has increased 3 to 5% every month, according to department data.
Did these new laws come with new money?
They did not.
The Model Pod invited us inside one of their group mental health discussions.
Be free and talk about it.
Led by Lieutenant Michael Lewis.
It's humbling because usually in the prison setting, it's an aggressive setting.
What's the community been like for you?
It's open-minded. Like, when I first came, it'll be a little intimidation.
Marvell Smith is just 18. When he first arrived, he says, he was harassed by another resident on the pod for being gay.
Right there on the spot, I terminated him from this program because that type of behavior cannot and will not be tolerated. I was surprised. This man right here told me that, Lieutenant Lewis, if you had not done that, we would have done it ourselves. I never expected that from them. I never expected that from them. But I got you. We got you.
How many of you would say that you've struggled with your mental health at some point? So almost everyone. Prior to this experimental pod, did you feel like there were people here who cared about that?
No.
Very few.
No. Michael Lewis, like, the love that he give us, I ain't have that since my father passed away.
All of the men say they've witnessed family and friends be killed. Several grew up without parents. Many of their families were separated by Hurricane Katrina.
This is definitely a cycle, and I'm going to be the one to break it. Straight up. I'm the last one in my family that's going to be incarcerated.
Legal scholar Andrea Armstrong studies what it would take to break that cycle.
Our Department of Corrections budget is approaching $1 billion a year. We are first in the nation for incarceration per capita. If incarceration was the thing that made people safe, we would be the safest state in the country.
NBC News requested interviews with State Senator Heather Cloud and Representative Raymond Cruz, who spearheaded the new legislation the sheriff alleges impacted the jail. They did not respond.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
For now, Sheriff Hudson and Lieutenant Lewis say they will keep swimming upstream, reforming one unit at a time.
A lot of people in Louisiana would say, lock them up, throw away the key. I don't want to pay for their therapy, for their group discussion, for a special pod. So why do you do it?
If we human beings can make up our mind and treat other people like human beings, that will make a difference.
Let's bring in Antonia Hilton for more on this. And to be very clear, these are pre-trial detainees, right? So these people have not been convicted of any crime and wait there, in that one case, 5 years, which is a whole nother story. But
I know.
There's now also debate on another project at that New Orleans jail, a mental health wing. Tell me about that.
That's right. And it would sound like something that this community would be excited about and supportive of, but it's actually extremely controversial. This proposal to create a new massive mental health structure as part of the jail has been pushed back upon for a few reasons. The first is they are planning to construct it as a panopticon, which is a type of architectural style that is criticized by a lot of experts because it means that all the inmates basically live with rooms organized in a circle with guards at the center. And it's designed to make people feel as though they're being watched constantly by guards or by their fellow inmates, something that a lot of experts say is actually really bad for anyone's mental health. And then the other piece of this is that the community in New Orleans has for years been asking for someone to either reopen the mental health ward that was destroyed during the storm or build a new mental health hospital. But this is going to be a facility that you can only access if you've first been accused of a crime and brought to jail. So it's not really going to be accessible or preventative, which is what people there say they really, really want, Christine.
Just fascinating reporting. I'm so glad you got time to spend some time there and really tell that story. Antonia Hilton, thank you so much. Nice to see you. For still to come, we're back in Paris for the Paralympic Games, the big events to watch and how these games are already setting records. Stay with us. The world's best athletes tonight taking center stage in Paris again, this time for the Paralympics. Look here, the opening ceremonies along France's Champs-Élysées, making history like the Olympic Games taking place outside of the stadium for the very first time. The Games feature more than 4,000 athletes competing in 22 sports over 11 days. Only 2 sports on the program, goalball and bocce, don't have an Olympic equivalent. Organizers say the 2024 Paralympics is already setting records with an all-time high number of delegations, female athletes participating, and global broadcasters covering it. Our very own Emily in Paris, Emily Akeda, is joining us right now. Emily, you got to see the opening ceremony, the procession with this new crop of world-class athletes taking over Paris. There's been a big push to carry the excitement from the Olympics here to the Paralympics. So, how was it?
Oh, Christine, this is the assignment of a lifetime. The energy on the ground was absolutely electric. I mean, consider the fact that we've got athletes from more than 150 countries and tens of thousands of fans from around the world, all converging on a single street. As you mentioned, the famed, the iconic Champs-Élysées, not far from where we're standing here at the Arc de Triomphe. And so it was so special to be a part of it. It was incredible to watch the fans cheering for every single country that would pass by. We were at the very beginning of the procession. So just as these athletes representing different countries wearing their special team outfits and gears step out. And so when Team USA stepped out onto the Champs-Élysées, walking down towards Place de la Concorde, it was truly a special moment. It brought tears to my eyes. Leading the way were flag bearers Nikki Nieves of the sitting volleyball team and Steve Serio of men's wheelchair basketball. Both of those teams, by the way, they are set to go for gold for a 3rd time in a row, Christine.
What are some of the sports to watch here, Emily?
Okay, well, outside of sitting volleyball and wheelchair basketball, because both of those are full of champions, one that I'm really interested in is wheelchair rugby. You learn a lot from its original name, which was murder ball. It says a lot about the physicality, a lot of smashing and crashing on the court. And, you know, our wheelchair rugby team has medaled at every single Paralympic Games since the origin of the game on the world stage. But in recent years, the gold has been elusive. They haven't managed to win that gold medal. So they're saying they've got a secret weapon this year, and it is the first woman to join Team USA on the court, on the Paralympic, the world stage, Sarah Adams. She says she hopes to inspire young girls watching about the power of breaking barriers and not to be afraid to enter such a physical sport like that.
Oh, that's cool. I'll be watching that one too. So, Emily, athletes here at the Games have varying disabilities. How does that impact the competition?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you think about it, you'll see some athletes with cerebral palsy, maybe there's a double amputee. I interviewed a swimmer who has something called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, which is a hereditary disease that impacts the nerve damage. And so they go through this classification process, and that puts them in different sport classes. That's to ensure the integrity and the fairness of the competition.
All right, Emily Aketa, have a very wonderful time, and we'll watch it with you as all these games begin. Thanks so much. You can watch full coverage of the 2024 Paralympics on NBC and Peacock right up through September 8th. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now. And we're coming on the air tonight with chilling new information about the man who tried to assassinate former President Trump. The FBI just revealing the other possible targets he zeroed in on, why we may never know why he targeted Trump. Then Nvidia, dubbed the world's greatest stock, posting record quarterly revenue minutes ago, how this tech giant has become a bellwether for investors. Plus, the late summer record-breaking heat sweeping across the country as heat-related deaths hit new highs. What we know about when this wave could break. Then Kamala Harris and Tim Walz making a big pitch to rural voters in Georgia. Could she hold on to the state President Biden narrowly won in 2020? And the new rules for the new school year, the drastic steps districts across the country are taking to keep phones out when class is in session. We're digging into it later in the show. Hey, everybody, I'm Christine in for Hallie, and tonight we start with those disturbing new details just into us from the FBI on the man behind the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. The gunman apparently searched for information about both the RNC and the DNC, plus information about President Biden, before hyper-focusing on the former president and opening fire at his rally in Pennsylvania. FBI leaders late today telling reporters the 20-year-old shooter saw the rally, in their words, as a target of opportunity. And still no answers on what his ideology or motive could have been. This significant update from the FBI as Donald Trump's team now prepares its defense for the streamlined federal indictment against him for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. It's the first major legal test of the Supreme Court's ruling that protects the acts of a president takes while in office. We should note it's unlikely that this case will make it to court before Election Day, but we've got team coverage on all of this. Let's start with Ken Delaney on what we're hearing from the FBI. Ken, we're also getting more details on the security failures here. The gunman was able to, fly a drone over the rally site before it started, kind of testing security. How's it even possible?
Yeah, that's right. And the FBI didn't answer the question of how it's possible. That's a question for the Secret Service, which has said that its counter-drone capability was not in place that day. What the FBI said today is that they have assessed that drone flight allowed the shooter to get a better idea of what the security posture was at that rally 2 hours before Donald Trump took the stage, which obviously is a major security failure. In terms of the profile of the shooter, what the FBI said today is that, look, after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of associates, friends, relatives, neighbors of this shooter, they are no closer to finding a specific motive. But what they do say is that this appeared to be a person interested in mass violence. He was researching violent acts all the way back to 2019. He researched both Republican and Democratic targets. So he Googled things about the RNC, the DNC, about President Biden's rallies, about Donald Trump's rallies. So he appeared to be somebody looking to make a spectacular statement. And that really fits the profile more of a mass shooter than a politically motivated assassin. But again, they're not ruling anything out. They're still assessing and analyzing all of his social media accounts. And in fact, they were not prepared today to say that a particular social media account that they found that included anti-Semitic comments, they weren't prepared to attribute those directly to him. They say they're still looking at that. They also revealed some technical information. They said that he was only on that roof for 6 minutes in total.
Wow.
And that was enough time for him to get in position, take aim. And we know from other information that the Secret Service agents protecting Donald Trump never knew he was there, even though a local officer saw him on the roof and radioed a warning. That warning never reached the Secret Service. They didn't find out until the shots were fired, Christine.
It's so fascinating, the FBI trying to profile all this. I mean, it's almost reflective of some of those mass shooters who are the loser to lion kind of thing, you know, like trying to have this grandiosity or something or immortality, or I don't know. But I guess we may never know what really drove him, right?
I think you're right about that, because they've interviewed so many people. It's really amazing that he was doing all this plotting and planning while living with his parents, who had no idea. And the FBI said today that his parents have been utterly cooperative, have provided them every piece of information they've asked for, and yet they didn't know, his friends didn't know, his classmates didn't know, and the FBI may never ultimately know why he did this. Christine.
All right, Ken Delanian, thanks so much for that update. Let's bring in Garrett Hake now on the streamlined indictment against the former president, as his campaign is facing some new controversy over an alleged incident at Arlington National Cemetery. We know some of Donald Trump's best fundraising days so far have been on the heels of indictments or arraignments against the former president. Is that happening here again?
Indictments or arraignments or convictions, Christine. And no, it doesn't seem to be the case, at least right now. The Trump campaign hasn't been out in their usual way bragging about their online fundraising. And in fact, with the exception of his conviction in New York, we found that the ability to raise big dollars off of these indictments trailed off over time. It's possible we could still see that change, but I think that the energy around the indictments on the political side, at least from the right, has tapered off substantially.
You know, Garrett, at the backdrop of all of this, you've got the Trump team now playing defense today for this incident involving campaign staff and during his trip there just 2 days ago. What more can you tell us?
I've been reporting this out all day, and while there is some reports of an incident, essentially perhaps some shoving or some words exchanged between campaign staff and cemetery staff over photography on site, what's more interesting about this is what they were arguing about, which is Arlington Cemetery's policy that, you know, there not be campaign explicitly political content produced or developed or taken on site here. And what you're looking at is a TikTok video released by the Trump campaign yesterday that is exactly that. So we had Trump appearing at the invitation of some of these Gold Star families in Section 60, was invited to lay a wreath, invited to take part in their ceremony, but then essentially capitalizing on that invitation to produce this political content that has a lot of Democrats, some veterans groups up in arms over the politicization of what is national hallowed ground.
And Garrett, J.D. Vance is taking a really hard line against Harris over the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, that's right. He was asked about this Arlington storyline today and responded like this. I'll explain why it's related.
It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Referring to Donald Trump showing up at Arlington here, you see that anger there from Vance. But what this tells me is that this is meant to be a contrast play here. It's not just that Donald Trump went to Arlington out of the goodness of his heart, the campaign would say, to be with these families. It's that they want to create that contrast with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who did not. And Vance's anger there, performative as it may be, I think makes that point as clearly as anything else, that the Trump campaign sees this as an issue of major vulnerability for Kamala Harris.
All right, a lot of big storylines today involving both candidates, but really the Trump team, and we've got, what, 10 weeks to go? Is that right?
But who's counting?
I'm not counting. Garrett Hake, thanks so much. Nice to see you. And just in the last couple hours, a temp check on what's been called the world's most important stock, showing a growing demand in the AI boom. We're talking about Nvidia, the chip-making tech giant that's been a big influence on this growing AI landscape that we've been talking so much about. The company out with its latest earnings report tonight, just after the markets closed. Nvidia reporting more than $30 billion in revenue, beating estimates, growing by 122%. It's such a big moment that there were even watch parties ahead of the earnings report. I'm not kidding. This is video from one of our CNBC producers of a bar here in New York. The report's such a big deal that the Financial Times today writing that Nvidia earnings now rival U.S. jobs report for impact on markets. And it shows that stocks pulling back and closing in the red today ahead of that earnings report. The tech-heavy NASDAQ index at the closing bell down over 1%. Watching again now because Nvidia disappointed the street. They wanted more. They had stellar growth over the past year or so, unlike anything we've seen in a while. And I'm telling you, expectations are sky high for this company. The company now worth more than $3 trillion, making it the second biggest publicly traded company in the U.S., right behind Apple. So how they got there? Tech companies have been spending a ton of money on Nvidia's chips and data centers to train and operate their AI systems. Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver joining me now to break all of this down. Okay, this year the stock has surged, 160% alone. But there's still questions, especially after that big wipeout earlier this summer, about whether, investors got over their skis. What's happening right now?
Yeah, the stock is down about 6-7% in after-hours trading. The profit growth was incredible. The revenue growth, 122%. The company did $16.6 billion in profit last quarter, and Wall Street wanted more. Investors wanted more.
How can this not be good enough? This is what I love about Wall Street.
Not good enough. They're not entertained by this at all. But this is the poster child for the AI boom, because they make the chips that are the computational workhorses for all the AI stuff we use. ChatGPT, OpenAI. They're making chips for the server centers that hold all this data. So there's so much riding on this company. You mentioned the stock up 160% this year. Last 5 years, Christine, up 26,000%.
Say that one more time.
26,000%. And didn't stutter there. That is a real number. Investors have done very well by holding this. And a lot of people are like, maybe I don't hold it. Maybe I don't care about Nvidia. You do hold it because it's in the biggest mutual funds and the biggest 401k plans, the biggest index funds out there. Super influential stock.
So if you put a few $100s in, 10 years ago, you could buy a Lamborghini with it right now.
A couple of Lamborghinis with it right now.
All right, there's an op-ed in MarketWatch today that says Nvidia is starting to look a lot like the next Apple. When we think about tech companies that have had a major boom, Apple is definitely a model to look to here now. So one of the big differences is that Nvidia doesn't have consumer-facing products, right?
Right.
The way that Apple does. But talk to me a little bit about, can we compare them sort of like that?
A little bit. You can compare it more to the hardware companies of the late 90s, the Cisco systems. They make the picks and shovels, the actual microchips that go into the devices we use to do everything, and to all this AI computing power that we're going to need in the future. And the biggest companies in the world buy from Nvidia. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, they're all its biggest customers. And the whole thing about this stock is it's all about demand. What does demand look like going forward? All these companies spending tens of billions of dollars on AI. Is the demand going to be there? Is it going to pay off in terms of profits for shareholders? And so far, everybody has bought the story. It's been a volatile stock, but people that have been in this stock a while have made a ton of money.
Chips and data centers, very techie, geeky. But then there's something that is, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, that is, stuff like ice cream and railroads, things that everyone can understand. That company today topped $1 trillion in market cap.
$1 trillion in market
amazing.
cap. He just had a birthday 3 days ago. Happy birthday to the Oracle of Omaha, the GOAT investor. Each stock of Berkshire Hathaway A shares worth $696,505. It owns things you can touch, taste, ride on. It owns NetJets. It owns Geico, one of the biggest insurers out there. And it did reach $1 trillion. The thing about these companies is that the bigger they get, because that's where the money flows, and they just compound their profits. Berkshire Hathaway has $277 billion in cash, Christine, and doesn't know where to spend it.
He is the greatest investor of all time. And he always says never bet against the United States of America. It just shows you, by finding good, even sometimes boring companies that are valued, you can make money. You don't have to be chasing after Nvidia, 5 years ago when you didn't know what it was. Just boring is better sometimes.
Yeah, and if you understand it and you like the product, maybe you should buy the stock.
All right, Caleb Silver, nice to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, right now, the heat is spreading east with over 50 million people under heat alerts stretching from Missouri to Long Island. Odds are you're feeling it where you are. Chicago hit a daily record of 99 degrees. Indianapolis at 94 yesterday, the hottest day of the year for both cities. And today's temps are set to look, like record highs for cities like Washington, D.C., suffering from a heat index possibly over 105 degrees. On top of all that, there's a code orange air quality alert in the capital. New numbers out today show that there have been 325 heat-related deaths in the U.S. this year. The heat's so bad in the Midwest that it's leading to something that is called corn sweat, when corn plants literally exhale water and make the humidity even worse. It's something that could seriously hurt this year's harvest, too. Ryan Nobles is in D.C. for us now. And so you say you don't think you're going to get that record, but what is this, orange code feeling like?
Well, I have an update for you, Christine. It turns out that D.C. did break the record. It was 99 degrees when I talked to you last. Now they're updating it to say that it reached 101 degrees, which is the record. And in fact, it is the most significant heat record this late in the season, going all the way back to 1980. So it just shows how it's getting later and later in the year that we're holding on to these high temperatures. And you're right, it's a code orange air quality situation here. The Washington, D.C. City government also put into place a heat warning, which means that they put into place a lot of safeguards to prevent people in the community from falling victim to the heat. And in particular, they're really concerned about the most vulnerable, young people, the elderly, and they're telling you to check in on them on a regular basis. They have free transportation to cooling centers as a result. And it's important to check in on the people you love, even if you think they're in an air-conditioned environment, because that air conditioner could conk off. And within just 10 minutes, somebody could be in a dangerous situation. Listen to one AC tech told us about what these extreme weather temperatures do to those units.
Once those temperatures hit above 80, 85, we start to get a lot of call volume from air conditioners breaking down.
And we were well over that 85 number today here in Washington, D.C. Wasn't just Washington, Philadelphia saw very hot temperatures. Where you are in New York City, it was also steamy as well. In Philadelphia, Christine, they actually had to reduce the school day. They cut it off a little bit early. This is just the first week of school there because there are some schools that don't have air conditioning inside those classrooms, and it can get really hot on a day like today, Christine.
Yeah, you mentioned New York, but boy, the U.S. Open, it's got to be real hot there.
Yeah, that's right. And the U.S. Open even put in place a rule change to allow the players more time to rest and take longer breaks if the temperature got over 86 degrees, which I believe it did at the U.S. Open today. And, and part of the reason that New York holds the U.S. Open this late into the season, the last week in August, first week in September, is because it's generally cooler. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore as the climate continues to change.
Yeah, all right. Ryan Nobles, thank you so much, Ryan. Nice to see you, friend. All right, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz touching down in Savannah in just the last hour, kicking off a big two-day bus tour through parts of rural Georgia as her campaign sets its sights on voters outside the big major cities. And remember, President Biden won Georgia by a razor-thin margin in 2020, the first time the southern state went blue since 1992. Harris's campaign hoping to do it again, as the latest polls show she's gaining an edge there. Mike Memoli is traveling with the Harris campaign in Georgia. He's in beautiful Savannah tonight. It's striking, pretty striking that Harris is in rural South Georgia. What more do we know about her campaign's, I guess, calculations there?
Well, Christine, this is an intentional choice by the Harris campaign to come out of the convention. The very first stop is not just in a state that had been maybe trending away from the battleground map under President Biden when he was leading the ticket, but a part of this state that is more red than we typically see a Democrat campaign in. I love this stat that we haven't seen a general election campaign stop in Southeast Georgia since the 1990s. That tells you just how uncompetitive this place, part of the state is. And the fact that the Harris campaign is coming here shows that they are coming with a lot of confidence. They're making an appeal to rural voters. And in Georgia, that means African-American voters, but also white rural voters as well. They're really trying to cut into Trump's margins here so that the overall statewide count, remember, it was just under 12,000 votes that Biden won here 4 years ago, maybe is a bit more comfortable. And so what we're seeing is a bit of coalition work on the part of the Harris team, too. When they landed, they did a photo op with students from one of the largest historically black colleges here. They visited a school where Vice President Harris was talking about the fact that they can be leaders in the future and wanting to support them in that. And so we're going to continue to see them go coalition by coalition to try to build up that winning formula for victory in the state here.
And, Mike, we're just learning that the Swifties for Harris organizers raised something like $140,000 in that call just, in the last day or so. What more do we know about this? And we're still waiting to see if Taylor herself actually endorses anyone.
Yeah, we are spending a lot of time at NBC News trying to figure out what Taylor Swift is going to do. Now, I can't claim to be a Swiftie myself. I would be, offering some clever song lyrics here if I was. But this really just shows what the enthusiasm shift has been from the Biden campaign to the Harris campaign. Because the Biden campaign says, listen, this is not something that they're affiliated with. This is not something they're behind. This is an organic effort. This sprung up outside of the campaign. And these kinds of things weren't happening when President Biden was leading the ticket. So we had this event. It featured some prominent Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Carole King joined it, even sung a little bit of Taylor Swift herself. They raised that $144,000 so far far and nearly 5,000 donors. And so this really is just an indication. We've seen a lot of different, I talked about coalitions. We've had white guys for Harris doing a call. We have cooking for Kamala coming up. This is all the kind of organic stuff that shows a campaign that really does feel like it has momentum behind it.
Mike Memley on the Taylor Swift beat tonight for us. Thank you so much from Savannah, Georgia. Nice to see you, Mike. All right, tonight, United Airlines flight attendants voting to authorize a strike, the first time something like this has happened in like 20 years. Flight attendants protesting today outside of 20 major airports across the country ahead of the busy holiday travel weekend. Now, they can't actually walk off the job for at least 30 days. The union is hoping today's vote will get contract negotiations moving. United saying in a statement today, to be clear, there is no work stoppage or labor disruption. Instead, off-duty flight attendants are exercising their right to conduct an informational picket. Jermaine Lee is at LaGuardia Airport for us now. Can you explain where this goes from here now that there is an authorization?
That's right, Christine. Now that there is an authorization, the members could request a release from mediation from the National Mediation Board, which would automatically trigger a 30-day so-called cooling off period where both sides could enter into arbitration, come to some sort of deal, or a strike deadline could be set. Now, after which point, the union could implement what they call their chaos strategy, which means create havoc around our system, meaning they could shut down a single airplane, a single system, but either way create havoc to shut down the processes here at various airports or, airline actions. And so we're still very much in the beginning of this. No one should expect any kind of shutdown or job walk-off anytime soon because each of these steps have to take place before that happens.
Is there any indication that this could spread beyond United to other major airlines?
Not yet. This is a pretty specific case where, United flight attendants have been for 3 years in position to maybe renegotiate their contract. Now, in Chicago today, American flight attendants did join United flight attendants in solidarity. That's as far as that goes so far, Christine.
All right, Jermaine Lee, thank you so much. We'll know you'll keep watching it for us. Thanks. Now to Texas, where we're just learning a fourth person has died in a major rollover crash that also hurt 10 other people. You can see the scene of the accident here right on the side of a highway just outside Dallas. Authorities say a van with more than a dozen people inside lost control and flipped over, throwing several passengers out of it. Only one person was wearing a seatbelt. County health officials say a medical helicopter, as well as multiple ambulances, police cars, and fire trucks responded to this mass casualty event. Investigators are looking into exactly what caused the van to lose control. All right, coming up, new details tonight on that listeria outbreak linked to deli meat. What we're learning about 5 additional deaths there. Plus, dramatic surveillance video out of Florida why police fired dozens of shots at an apartment building. So what happens when your kid accidentally breaks a really ancient artifact? One unlucky dad just found out. That's coming up later this hour. But first, when kids go back to school this year, a lot of them won't be using their cell phones. That's because a growing number of districts are taking drastic measures to deal with the distraction they cause by banning phones in class. The Washington Post found that out of the nation's 20 largest school districts, at least 7 forbid the use of cell phones during the school day or plan to do so. At least 7 more have imposed serious restrictions. In Massachusetts, more than half of the districts have a total ban. Even more have partial bans. It comes amid rising concerns that cell phones, they make it harder for kids to focus, and they also can lead to cyberbullying. Meanwhile, the Surgeon General is warning that phones not only harm kids' mental health, but parents' mental health, too. Here's what a mother and daughter from Brockton told NBC's Rahema Ellis about phone restrictions at their local school.
I think it helps the learning environment.
What do your friends say?
They think it's like a terrible idea.
I think it's a good idea. I grew up in a generation where we didn't have phones. So in school, middle school, high school, we didn't have cell phones. It wasn't really something that we had to worry about socially or just kind of pay attention to. It didn't distract us.
And Rahema joins me now from Brockton. You've been speaking with people there in Massachusetts, Rahema. What are they saying about how we got here, and what do they think about the bans?
One teacher said to me recently that cell phones in schools, they compared it to giving kids the keys to the car before teaching them how to drive. And so we've got a lot of things that are unintended consequence with this device. And some of them, you pointed out, it's about mental health. It's about isolation, about kids being right next to each other, but not talking to one another. Instead, they are texting. So there's this struggling with how do they socialize? Because this device, many of them also have what they call FOMO, fear of missing out, of what one person is seeing on a social media chat, so they feel they have to get on and engage in that as well. So it's led to even cyberbullying, as you point out, and it never stops. Even threats about what might happen to a kid after school as they're looking on these devices. So some bans are going into place. We've got some full screens here about what those bans might be in some communities. Some are less restrictive, and they would include using phones during class, but barring using phones in class, I should say, but they are allowed at lunch and between classes. The more restrictive ban, students would hand over their phones completely for the entire school day, and the phones would be stored inside a locking pouch. And they would not get those phones back, Christine, until the end of the day. But in one place we went to in Brockton, Massachusetts, it's a pouch that the kids put the phones into. It locks, and the kids can put the phone right in their backpack or any kind of satchel they might be carrying around. One parent said that she liked this in the event that they had to come and get their to the school to get their child for an emergency, let's say. The kid wouldn't have to go to the office and then find the phone and all the rest of it. They'd have it right in their satchel, and they could move quickly. So, two kinds of restrictions, and some parents think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And,
Christine?
you know, it's so interesting, even in some schools, I know in one of my son's schools, they tested, it's almost like a shoe rack on the side of the door. You come in, you drop your phone in on the way into class, you pick it up on the way out, so you do have access to the phone, but not during class, to prevent that popcorn brain where you're just looking at something real quickly, a new idea all the time, and you can't focus. So how are districts going to know if this is working the way they intend?
You know that old saying, the proof is in the pudding? If they find that kids seem less anxious, if they find that kids are actually paying attention during class, if a teacher calls on a student and instead of that student having to look up from their cell phone, that student is making eye contact with the teacher. If they find that grades are improving, that social behavior is improving, that they have fewer arguments in school, those are going to be telltale signs, teachers tell us, that this is working to the benefit of students rather than to their detriment.
It's
Christine?
certainly really exciting and interesting that so many school districts are trying new things and trying to figure out how to make this work, because it's a new frontier there with this technology for such young kids. Raheem Ellis, thank you so much. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the CDC today saying 5 more people have died in that listeria outbreak tied to Boar's Head deli meats, bringing the total number of deaths to 8 people. Dozens have become sick. You'll remember we told you about this outbreak. The deli meats you see here were recalled, and officials say do not eat them. Number 2, officials firing what looked like dozens of gunshots at a man in Florida who officials said opened fire at them the moment it happened, caught on a security cam. Listen. Police say the man got hurt but is expected to be okay. Officials are investigating, and the 2 officers who opened fire were put on administrative leave. Number 3, today the Supreme Court deciding not to revive President Biden's student debt relief plan, which is meant to lower monthly payments for millions of borrowers. Republican-led states had challenged the plan. The Education Department didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Number 4, Yelp is suing Google, accusing it of illegally abusing its monopoly to dominate the market. Comes after a judge ruled earlier this month that Google violated antitrust law. We reached out to Google for comment and have not heard back. Number 5, Lego is changing up its building blocks, announcing today it'll start using renewable and recycled plastic instead of oil to make Legos. It's more expensive, but it's part of a trend. Other toy companies like Mattel have said they're going to use recycled materials too. All right, we're just learning the estate of the creator of the medical drama ER is filing a lawsuit against Warner Brothers Television over an upcoming show called The Pit that it claims is basically an unauthorized reboot. You remember ER, it was the top-rated show on American TV in the mid-90s. There's George Clooney. Millions of people watched. It won a bunch of Emmys, and it was created by Michael Crichton, who died in 2008. The lawsuit details a handful of similarities between The Pit and ER. Here's a few. Both star actor Noah Wyle as a doctor. Both are set in the emergency room of a large city, one Chicago, one Pittsburgh. The episodes start in the morning and end in a day. Chloe Malas is joining us now. So walk us through the complaint, because it alleges the producers of The Pit actually tried to develop a reboot of ER. What happened here?
And that looks like where it all started, Christine. So in this explosive lawsuit that's filed on behalf of Michael Crichton's estate, specifically his widower, Sherry, she says it's not like ER. It's not kind of like ER. It's not sort of like ER. It is ER. And like you said, you mapped out some of the similarities, right? They're both in emergency rooms. They both have Noah Wyle in the series. But she says that she was approached, the estate was approached to do a reboot of ER, and that the estate of Michael Crichton said, no, we're not going to do it. We don't want to be part of it. She says this is the ultimate betrayal, that it's really like getting the band back together again. You don't just have Noah Wyle, who's now starring in such a similar show. The lawsuit states that you also have John Wells. Who is John Wells? Well, he was the famous showrunner of ER for all those years. He was an executive producer on some of the episodes of ER. He's now the executive producer of this new show, The Pit. So they're seeking, unspecified damages. But this show, HBO Max, the streaming service, they have ordered 15 episodes, and it's coming out sometime next year.
Wow. What is Warner Brothers saying about this?
So Warner Brothers has issued a statement, and they're saying The Pit is a new and original show, and any suggestion otherwise is false. Now, this is not new news that The Pit is coming out. Wells and others have done interviews. Variety has said that this show is actually going to be pushing the envelope more. They're going to have more explicit themes. It's going to explore hospitals in a post-COVID era, that this is not ER. And if you think about it, though, Christine, there have been a lot of hospital dramas.
True.
And one comes to mind since ER. Grey's Anatomy,
Right.
Dr. McDreamy, right? Like reminiscent of Clooney. And it doesn't look like any other stars besides Noah Wyle from ER are going to be a part of this. I just want to know, what does George Clooney think about all of this? Juliana Margulies. But, you can understand how the estate would feel like, look, you came to us, you asked for permission, and then you went and you did something very similar. But I guess the truth will come out when the show comes out,
Right.
and we'll see if these episodes are reminiscent of ER.
Certainly a drama in of itself.
Yes, it is.
Chloe Malas, my friend, nice to see you.
Nice
Thank
to see you, too.
When we come back, French prosecutors charging the CEO of Telegram today. How they say Pavel Durov enabled various forms of criminality on the platform. Plus, why officials in Japan think a single dolphin is behind a series of attacks on swimmers. Why the Paralympics in Paris are so historic. Our reporters live in the city later this hour with more on the opening ceremony and the athletes to watch. But first, NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day. Because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Italy, officials say at least 2 people are missing after torrential rains triggered a landslide in the southern part of the country. Dozens of people had to evacuate. Fire officials say they've deployed 10 search and rescue squads. In Japan, officials in one seaside town think the same dolphin is behind dozens of attacks over the last 3 years, including 18 attacks this past month alone. The reason why? Researchers say he's probably lonely and just trying to play with swimmers. And in Israel, a 4-year-old boy accidentally shattered a 3,500-year-old jar during a museum visit. Parents' worst nightmare. The jar predates the biblical kings Solomon and David, and archaeologists unearthed it fully intact. Super rare for a jar of its size. The museum says they will put it back together, even inviting the boy and his dad to come back and see it once it's fixed. All right, some breaking news right now. We're just learning that the CEO of Telegram was charged by French prosecutors after being detained earlier this week. Pavel Durov has been charged with enabling various forms of criminality on the platform. He has been released on a €5 million bail and has to stay in France. He's going to report to police twice a week. In a statement Wednesday, the Paris prosecutor's office said that Telegram had almost completely failed to respond to its legal requests for user data in prosecuting cybercrime cases. If you remember, Durov was detained Saturday after stepping off a plane in Paris. Telegram didn't immediately respond to NBC's request for comment. Let's bring in Kevin Collier with more on today's developments. Kevin, nice to see you. What more do we know?
We know this is completely unprecedented for the leader of a major tech company to be arrested, charged with a large series of crimes-related criminality on the platform. But also, Telegram is pretty unique. Unlike any other major platform, it simply has a policy of just not responding to government requests for people who are committing fraud, people who are trading sexualized images of child abuse, things like that. So this is uncharted legal territory that we're looking at here.
And even really serious crimes like, human trafficking and trafficking of children in some cases, not only just the images of children. So it's the policy of Telegram not to cooperate with law enforcement when they're trying to investigate these crimes?
On the Telegram website, they say they have shared 0 bytes of data about users with any government in any circumstance, which is completely out of the pale with the way any other, not just American website works, but TikTok, Chinese apps, European apps, they all kind of play ball, at least with severe crimes when prosecutors get a warrant and say, hey, this is a particular user you at least turn over what you have on this person. And Telegram has not. So this is new territory for him to be arrested, but it's not entirely surprising that Durov would be the one to kind of attract this law enforcement attention.
Yeah, this scrutiny. So where does it go from here?
Well, he's out on bail, or I'm sorry, he's been offered bail. We think he's out on bail, but he can't leave the country. And we are waiting for the next steps in the court process.
All right, Kevin Collier, thank you so much. I know you'll keep following it for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Overseas, we're learning more tonight about a fallen Israeli soldier rescued in the Gaza Strip after being held hostage. The IDF and Israeli security agencies say the soldier was taken on October 7th, the day Hamas attacked Israel. They say the effort to get him home happened over several months. It comes as Israel is launching one of its largest raids in the occupied West Bank, the largest in at least 2 decades, with airstrikes in 2 cities and a refugee camp. The IDF and other officials saying in a joint statement they, quote, eliminated armed terrorists from the air and ground. Danielle Hamajian has more from Jerusalem.
Well, normally these raids in the occupied West Bank last only a few hours. They normally mostly happen at night, and they don't usually involve so many units within the IDF, but that's not the case here. The IDF calling this a major counter-terrorism operation, and the reason why they've launched this, they say, is in response to an escalating wave of terrorist activities, citing the increase in use of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, under roads and under infrastructure. IDF also saying that they've identified efforts by Iran to smuggle in weapons and explosives into the West Bank. The Israeli foreign minister saying today that Iran is working to set up a terrorist front against Israel in the West Bank, following the model of Gaza and Lebanon, calling this a full-fledged war. Now, one local source on the ground in one of the camps being surrounded at the moment telling us that the IDF are going home to home, detaining young men and taking them to an interrogation site on the outskirts of the camp. Civilians telling us all day today that they were afraid to come out of their homes, that they could see IDF snipers on top of roofs and buildings, that they were afraid to come out. They were afraid even of looking out the window. But this is still ongoing after nearly 24 hours, and it's unclear how long it's going to go on for.
All right, Danielle, thank you for that. Coming up, we're going inside one of the most notorious jails in the country, how officials there are turning it into a pilot program for mental health. That's next in tonight's original. All right, some more breaking news now. We're learning from United Airlines in just the last hour that one person was taken to the hospital after a flight was diverted to Memphis this afternoon after encountering some severe turbulence. Paramedics met the plane at the gate, transported the passenger to the hospital. United says we're grateful to our crew for their efforts to ensure the safety of our employees and customers, and we expect the flight to depart for Chicago soon. We'll bring you more as we get more on this. All right, tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been covering. And tonight, it's mental health behind bars. This week marks 19 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, destroying the city's charity mental health ward, and it still hasn't been rebuilt. Now the jail has been forced to fill its void. Here's Antonia Hilton.
Up on the 4th floor of one of the most notorious jails in the nation, about 50 men are living together in an experimental community. They play cards and basketball, share books, and cut each other's hair.
We're trying to make sure everybody is cool, calm, collective.
NBC News receives special access to the Justice Center in New Orleans. Resident Zachary Terrell took us on a tour of what officials call a model pod for mental health.
I'm gonna tell y'all something funny. This is my partner, Ryan.
With the stress of being away from his 3 daughters after pleading not guilty to armed robbery charges, he says he stands here to talk through his pain out loud.
I just talk to him. He don't talk back.
Zachary is among the first to experience New Orleans Sheriff Susan Hutson's reforms, aimed at treating pretrial inmates more like patients, with freedom to set their own schedules, share chores, and bond with each other.
Bring y'all to my humble abode.
Fellow member Leonard Patty has been in pretrial detention for 5 years and pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder.
I probably got the best view in the jail.
He says he's lost countless friends to gun violence, that he didn't realize until joining this pod that it wasn't normal to live every day expecting to die.
Before coming to jail, I was cool with that. Like, if I had ran to the police and they killed me, I would have been happy.
For years, the Orleans Parish Jail has been known for violence and a 10-year federal consent decree monitoring human rights abuses. Experts say it has one other title: the largest mental health care provider for all of New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina flooded the city's charity mental health ward. It never reopened, following a pattern seen across the U.S. Large mental institutions and psychiatric wards shuttered, many for good reason, as asylums became infamous for poor conditions and mistreatment. But our country did little to replace them. And New Orleans isn't alone. The jails in L.A., Chicago, and New York are among the largest mental health providers in America.
I don't want a mental health jail. I want a mental health facility.
Sheriff Hutson ran for office in 2022, promising to hire clinicians and to fight plans for further jail expansion. According to her office, more than half of the 1,400 people in jail here have diagnosed mental disorders, ranging from PTSD to schizophrenia.
Why did mental health matter to you?
My baby brother. He ran away to the Navy when he was a teenager. He came back PTSD, and then one day he just fell down completely and disappeared.
Take your time.
Yeah, some of these things, you just trigger back. You're like, The intervention that we did, I had to call the sheriff's office.
Hutson became the only female sheriff in the state. As she tried to reform, Louisiana Republican lawmakers gained a supermajority.
Our criminal justice system has lost its balance.
Pushing through a slate of crime and punishment laws, including sending 17-year-olds to adult jails like this one. Since the spring, the already crowded New Orleans jail population has increased 3 to 5% every month, according to department data.
Did these new laws come with new money?
They did not.
The Model Pod invited us inside one of their group mental health discussions.
Be free and talk about it.
Led by Lieutenant Michael Lewis.
It's humbling because usually in the prison setting, it's an aggressive setting.
What's the community been like for you?
It's open-minded. Like, when I first came, it'll be a little intimidation.
Marvell Smith is just 18. When he first arrived, he says, he was harassed by another resident on the pod for being gay.
Right there on the spot, I terminated him from this program because that type of behavior cannot and will not be tolerated. I was surprised. This man right here told me that, Lieutenant Lewis, if you had not done that, we would have done it ourselves. I never expected that from them. I never expected that from them. But I got you. We got you.
How many of you would say that you've struggled with your mental health at some point? So almost everyone. Prior to this experimental pod, did you feel like there were people here who cared about that?
No. Very few.
No. Michael Lewis, like, the love that he give us, I ain't have that since my father passed away.
All of the men say they've witnessed family and friends be killed. Several grew up without parents. Many of their families were separated by Hurricane Katrina.
This is definitely a cycle, and I'm going to be the one to break it. Straight up. I'm the last one in my family that's going to be incarcerated.
Legal scholar Andrea Armstrong studies what it would take to break that cycle.
Our Department of Corrections budget is approaching $1 billion a year. We are first in the nation for incarceration per capita. If incarceration was the thing that made people safe, we would be the safest state in the country.
NBC News requested interviews with State Senator Heather Cloud and Representative Raymond Cruz, who spearheaded the new legislation the sheriff alleges impacted the jail. They did not respond.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
For now, Sheriff Hudson and Lieutenant Lewis say they will keep swimming upstream, reforming one unit at a time.
A lot of people in Louisiana would say, lock them up, throw away the key. I don't want to pay for their therapy, for their group discussion, for a special pod. So why do you do it?
If we human beings can make up our mind and treat other people like human beings, that will make a difference.
Let's bring in Antonia Hilton for more on this. And to be very clear, these are pre-trial detainees, right? So these people have not been convicted of any crime and wait there, in that one case, 5 years, which is a whole nother story. But
I know.
There's now also debate on another project at that New Orleans jail, a mental health wing. Tell me about that.
That's right. And it would sound like something that this community would be excited about and supportive of, but it's actually extremely controversial. This proposal to create a new massive mental health structure as part of the jail has been pushed back upon for a few reasons. The first is they are planning to construct it as a panopticon, which is a type of architectural style that is criticized by a lot of experts because it means that all the inmates basically live with rooms organized in a circle with guards at the center. And it's designed to make people feel as though they're being watched constantly by guards or by their fellow inmates, something that a lot of experts say is actually really bad for anyone's mental health. And then the other piece of this is that the community in New Orleans has for years been asking for someone to either reopen the mental health ward that was destroyed during the storm or build a new mental health hospital. But this is going to be a facility that you can only access if you've first been accused of a crime and brought to jail. So it's not really going to be accessible or preventative, which is what people there say they really, really want, Christine.
Just fascinating reporting. I'm so glad you got time to spend some time there and really tell that story. Antonia Hilton, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Right, still to come, we're back in Paris for the Paralympic Games, the big events to watch and how these games are already setting records. Stay with us. The world's best athletes tonight taking center stage in Paris again, this time for the Paralympics. Look here, the opening ceremonies along France's Champs-Élysées, making history like the Olympic Games taking place outside of the stadium for the very first time. The Games feature more than 4,000 athletes competing in 22 sports over 11 days. Only 2 sports on the program, goalball and bocce, don't have an Olympic equivalent. Organizers say the 2024 Paralympics is already setting records with an all-time high number of delegations, female athletes participating, and global broadcasters covering it. Our very own Emily in Paris, Emily Akeda is joining us right now. Emily, you got to see the opening ceremony, the procession with this new crop of world-class athletes taking over Paris. There's been a big push to carry the excitement from the Olympics here to the Paralympics. So, how was it?
Oh, Christine, this is the assignment of a lifetime. The energy on the ground was absolutely electric. I mean, consider the fact that we've got athletes from more than 150 countries and tens of thousands of fans from around the world, all converging on a single street. As you mentioned, the famed, the iconic Champs-Élysées, not far from where we're standing here at the Arc de Triomphe. And so it was so special to be a part of it. It was incredible to watch the fans cheering for every single country that would pass by. We were at the very beginning of the procession. So just as these athletes representing different countries wearing their special team outfits and gears step out. And so when Team USA stepped out onto the Champs-Élysées, walking down towards Place de la Concorde, it was truly a special moment. It brought tears to my eyes. Leading the way were flag bearers Nikki Nieves of sitting volleyball team and Steve Serio of men's wheelchair basketball. Both of those teams, by the way, they are set to go for gold for a third time in a row, Christine.
What are some of the sports to watch here, Emily?
Okay, well, outside of sitting volleyball and wheelchair basketball, because both of those are full of champions, one that I'm really interested in is wheelchair rugby. You learn a lot from its original name, which was murder ball. It says a lot about the physicality, a lot of smashing and crashing on the court. And, you know, our wheelchair rugby team has medaled at every single Paralympic game since the origin of the game on the world stage. But in recent years, the gold has been elusive. They haven't managed to win that gold medal. So they're saying they've got a secret weapon this year, and it is the first woman to join Team USA on the court on the Paralympic, the world stage, Sarah Adams. She says she hopes to inspire young girls watching about the power of breaking barriers and not to be afraid to enter such a physical sport like that.
Oh, that's cool. I'll be watching that one too. So, Emily, athletes here at the Games have varying disabilities. How does that impact the competition?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you think about it, you'll see some athletes with cerebral palsy, maybe there's a double amputee. I interviewed a swimmer who has something called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, which is a hereditary disease that impacts the nerve damage. And so they go through this classification process, and that puts them in different sport classes. That's to ensure the integrity and the fairness of the competition.
All right, Emily Aketa, have a very wonderful time, and we'll watch it with you as all these games begin. Thanks so much. You can watch full coverage of the 2024 Paralympics on NBC and Peacock right up through September 8th. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.